We have the lineup for the final of the women's pair with South Africa, Australia, Great Britain, New Zealand, China, and Romania. And here we have Nadine Smith and Leanne Percy for the Republic of South Africa in lane 1. 6th place for them at the Lucerne World Cup. Australia, Sarah Tate and Kate Hornsey in lane 2. Raced in different boats at the Lucerne World Cup. Great Britain, Helen Glover, Heather Stanning, the heat winners in lane number 3. Also heat winners. In lane 4, New Zealand, the reigning world champions. Juliet Haig, the bowwoman, also a world champion way back in 2005, so much experience there. Rebecca Scown, her stroke woman. China, Wu Yu and Gao Yulan in lane 5. And lane 6, Camelia Lupashku and Nicoleta Albu for Romania. Wow. That's a very, very fine field indeed. What do you think, Yaz?
I think it's going to be quite a showdown, and especially when you look at the times from the semifinals. Great Britain and New Zealand nearly identical.
Oh, okay. So I think it's their second year together, Helen Glover and Heather Stanning. They won a silver medal last year at Karapiro behind the New Zealanders, so they know each other very well. I wonder what that has to say about the tactics applied in this race.
Well, here's the team of experience, the reigning world champions, and the way they won that world championship in New Zealand was by blasting out of the blocks and taking an early lead and forcing everyone else to chase them down the field. But Great Britain was the winner in Lucerne, the silver medalists at the World Championships. And now here we have it, the final match of the season. Who will be crowned world champion?
That's Kate Hornsey on stroke position, doubling up in the Coxless 4 as well. But I think there's a reason for it, wasn't it?
Well, an excellent story there, because Hornsey came in for Phoebe Stanley, who was, she hurt her back. And, actually she had cardiac arrhythmia. They diagnosed it right before the event, and so she really only had a couple of practices in the boat, and lo and behold, not only do they make the final, but they've secured a berth for Australia in the Olympic Games, as have all of the teams here today. And a little steering in the South African boat. You definitely don't want to be hung up on a buoy line in a pair. That is extremely dangerous, because if you hook one in a pair, that can send you right over into the lake.
And coming back into the lane always costs you something. I mean, some crews decide, if they race on lane 1, to just leave the buoys under their rigger. But here we have Helen Glover to the right of your picture and stroke woman Heather Stanning, 25 and 26 years of age. And they managed to slip away a little bit, 1.25 seconds at the quarter mark. New Zealand in second place, hanging there. Australia also there, just a length down on the leading crew. So there's not much said already about the result of this race, with Helen Glover and Heather Stanning leading once more. 35, that's good stroke rate for them. Tailwind conditions still.
If there's a team that has figured out the Kiwi crew, it is this duo from Great Britain. 35 is a nice, it's a very controlled body rate in the pair. I mean, at world championship level anyway. But especially in the tailwind now too, it's growing a little bit, and you've got to be smart. You don't want to be too high. You need to make sure that you're able to keep the boat running and pick off the quick conditions.
Yep, so the acceleration in the stroke is a bit more than the stroke. The time that the blade is in the water is shorter. You have to be able to adapt to these conditions, which are not tough, but they are totally different to headwind conditions. And we see the stern of the British boat still with an overlap with the bow of the Kiwi boat. They are working very hard. Juliet Haig, former world champion back in 2005, as I said, on the bow position, looking to her right. And now they come a little bit closer, I think, closing in on the British here on this second quarter of the race. 2,000 meters is a long distance, isn't it?
Right. You've got to be resilient, and if there's one thing that the Kiwi boat is, that's what they do. I mean, they're very capable of rowing high for a long period of time. The only thing here is with this tailwind, and granted they had very rough conditions in New Zealand, you want to make sure you're picking up the boat smoothly. But only a half a second now between Great Britain and New Zealand. Australia with a second over the Republic of South Africa for the third spot at this point in the race.
Well, tell you what, I think that this race now will develop into a two-section race with the gold and silver medal being battled between Great Britain and New Zealand, and then there's going to be a gap to the other four crews battling it out, still very close between South Africa, Australia, China and Romania for the bronze medal position.
We talk about, how long does it take to reach an Olympic level? Well, a phenomenal story is Helen Glover in the bow seat on the right of the screen in that British boat. She started in the Sporting Giants scheme created by Steve Redgrave in 2008, where they identified athletes who were 180 centimeters tall with some athletic experience. Well, I guess she's just 180 centimeters, but boy, are they glad that they brought her into the program, because in 2.5 years, she's a world silver medalist, someone who's qualified a boat for an Olympics, and now challenging or in the lead for a gold medal at the 2011 World Championships. But New Zealand is not going away.
No, and they look good. They have a good smooth stroke. Found it once more. Looked a bit more choppy early on in this race, but now they have established a good rhythm, and we come to the finish line in about 600 meters. That means about 75 strokes to the line. To judge every stroke right is especially difficult, with the tailwind picking up a little bit here on the final stage of this race, and it's still just half a deck between Great Britain holding on to that lead and New Zealand challenging and challenging and challenging now. Australia still holding on to third place, but being challenged by the strong Chinese pair, the silver medalists from the Beijing Olympic Games, back in business, building up for London 2012.
And just as they crossed that 500-meter mark, I saw the Kiwis put yet another push into the pace of the race. But it looks like two bows nearly level between Great Britain and New Zealand, two very different styles. The New Zealand team very aggressive and explosive at the catch. The Great Britain team with a longer back end of the stroke, trying to capitalize on that tailwind. But as you come into the final 250 meters, there's also an element of toughness and will to win.
Absolutely, and I think the British still have something to give in regard to stroke rate. I think the Kiwis are striking higher a little bit, maybe. You can see that the Kiwis are about 2 strokes a minute higher, so what can the British pull off here? Can they win a gold? Helen Glover, Heather Stenning on bow position. There's still it's nothing to choose between these two. It's bow to bow. Fantastic race between Great Britain and New Zealand for gold in the women's pair at the Bled World Rowing Championships here in Slovenia. And then it's way back for the Australians, but fantastic performance for them on their way maybe to a bronze medal. Down to the line, it's New Zealand challenging once more. It's still Great Britain there in the picture. It's nothing to choose. Will be another fantastic finish, and I think maybe the Kiwis now gain another momentum here on the last strokes, but Great Britain may be in the lead by half a bowball's number. Nothing to choose. I can't tell you. Wow, whoever won it must have been a whisker only. So that's photo finish between Great Britain and New Zealand. Definitely a bronze medal, fantastic performance from Australia. Sarah Tate, Kate Hornsey securing not only an Olympic berth in this class, but winning a bronze medal. So there's the gold medal once more for New Zealand. And tell you what, it was 0.08 of a second. So another silver medal for Great Britain after 2010, another gold medal for New Zealand, but by the slightest, narrowest of margin. And look at the delighted Aussies. Good.
Well, the Kiwis certainly went after it in the start, but Great Britain gave them the toughest challenge to date that they've had at the World Championships. Certainly we saw the disappointment on the British team's faces, but my goodness, the setup for this Olympic final in a year, and certainly a lot can happen, but to have a contest this close in the women's pair the whole week has been absolutely fabulous.
Well, here's a confirmation on the screen, 6:58.60. New Zealand winning gold, Great Britain silver, Australia bronze, China the